Welcome to episode 129 of Star Wars and Scotch. After a week off, Tim and I returned to a galaxy far, far away, although Tim was very
for a while. I've
involved
been there
in that galaxy. But this week we are not alone. We are with our good friend Adam, who we had the pleasure of seeing at PAX a few weeks ago, which was great hanging out with you. How you doing, Adam?
I am so excited to finally be here and actually be able to talk Star Wars. We've only been talking about this for like so long, so I'm doing very well. And yeah, I got to see these lovely human beings at PAX. It was pretty awesome. So I'm stoked.
At Adam, I got to meet. I think it was last PAX or 2 PAXs ago. I can't remember, but I remember once Tim said something about Star Wars to you about and us and the podcast stuff. You lit up and you were like, "Oh my god!" And then you just went and we were off to the races. I was like, oh, Adam has to come on the show at some point. So I was finally able to nail down everyone's schedule and get you on. So this will be a very good conversation. Star Wars fans, we're going to ask all of the hard and difficult questions. Lore quiz. No, I'm kidding. We're not going to do that. Don't worry.
I was really worried about that.
I know.
Oh god. Yeah, I'm so good. I'm so happy about that.
But yeah, so Tim has been playing Jedi Survivor. You finished it today, right?
I did. I finished it today.
Yeah. And Adam,
and you didn't play it because you were at Disney.
What do you want me to do?
How dare you?
Whatever.
I booked the Bippity Boppity Boutique for my 4-year-old's birthday. What do you want me to do? Which, by the way, is basically building a lightsaber at Hollywood Studios for a 4-year-old.
So you build your 4-year-old?
No, so that you get the dress. First of all, you check in. They're like, "Hi, what would you like to be called? Princess, Queen, Mermaid? You tell us. We'll call you whatever you want." I was like, "Oh my god!"
Apache attack helicopter.
Yeah,
that's what I was like, "Do something
to
crazy."
the chopper.
She wanted princess, so you do that, and then you have a dress maker person who walks you around the shop, and you pick all the dress. Which my wife was like, "Man, if I paid all this money to get my kid in a princess dress, and they picked like Mirabelle from Encanto, I would be pretty pissed." Because that's like not a
wait, but she's not a princess.
Shh, they got her shit in there. Same with Moana.
She is a princess, though. That is
true.
But still, could you imagine paying $200 for a hula skirt that you could get at Dollar General? Like that's like
it's like ripped and frayed at the bottom too.
That's what I'm
like
saying, dude.
All right. Anyway,
it's part of the style.
Jules went straight up Snow White. But then they take you into the room to change. They took her hair out and stuff. And then they have this whole interactive thing with the fairy godmother in the mirror. It was really cute. Jules was freaking out because she wanted to go in the castle. You know where the Bippity Boppity Boutique is, right? Across from the castle. Yeah. And they do the hair and makeup in the castle. So she was over the moon that they brought her in there. It was great. She had a blast. But yeah, it was essentially just like building a lightsaber for her and what she wanted to do. So.
I think of Jules going through like an assembly line of just like a conveyor belt.
I mean, which scepter do you want? Which headdress do you want? Which dress do you want?
What did you do at Disney? I did a build your daughter.
Yeah. It's like screw Build-A-Bear, build a daughter, you know?
Just gonna build a daughter.
I will say that my son only wanted to see Din and Grogu at Galaxy's Edge, and we could not find him to save our lives. We found Kylo, we found the First Order troopers, we could not find Din and Grogu anywhere.
Yeah, because they don't have a schedule. They just kind of just like pop out and
show up. Yeah. So that was the only thing I did not like. But we went on all the Star Wars rides. Star Tours had a 10-minute wait. We've reached that.
Oh, even with the new content?
I don't think it's out yet.
Oh.
But my sister has a wheelchair. She can't be in the sun because she has a heart condition. So we get to skip a bunch. Basically, we get unlimited lightning lane, but we can only book it one thing at a time.
Right.
But even on Star Tours, we didn't need it. So we were going to walk on. They're like, no, go through the lightning lane because that's where the handicap access is. I have never, Tim, walked through that building so quickly in my life. Yeah. It was like up the ramp, past the opening area, down to the side, past the baggage area, up, boop. And I'm standing right at the entrance to the pods. And the guy's like, how many? I was like, whoa, all right. But we went on Rise of Resistance. My wife had a blast. She had never been on it. She was like, that is a really, they screwed with her. The Imperial officer came. Have you been on it, Adam?
Mm-hmm. Well, yes, I haven't been on the Rise of the Resistance, or what is it called? The really cool one, right?
That's the one.
Oh, is this it? Oh, no,
yeah. So there's an interactive period. I won't give it away, but there's an interactive period where there's Imperial officers and they're actors, like they're cast members. Mm-hmm. So my wife looks at one of them. She goes, "I love your lipstick," and the officer looks at her and goes, "I don't care." And my wife's like, I was offended, like hurt inside. And then they're like, please remove your bags and hold them so you can keep them on your lap during the ride. And my wife had her purse on, she didn't do it. And then she walks over and she goes, apparently this one doesn't know what a bag is. And she's like, oh my God, I'm so sorry. So now she's flustered. We're on the orange line. They go, red and blue, please move into the interrogation area. My wife starts walking. She goes, red and blue, you resistant scum who doesn't know your colors.
They have the best jobs because they get to be mean to cast members, and they get to be mean cast members to guests, and it's totally fine.
Like, think of all the, like, you just let it all out at work. You're probably tranquil. And
it's great therapy. Yeah, I'm sure.
So, but she enjoyed the ride. But yeah, it was
I'm glad you had fun.
Good trip, and I got a little sick during one point, and Tim now has pictures of me.
Thank you for that picture. I've already tweeted it.
Yeah. Oh, you tweeted it. You tweeted it. The whole world knows.
I'm gonna use it. No, I'm gonna use it for the whole year.
I'm just gonna hit that retweet real quick. Let me just look it up real quick. And
well, before we go any further, normally we record this in the morning. We're doing it in the evening, so we're actually drinking Scotch this evening.
We are not drinking King's Coast coffee right now.
But I did wake up with King's Coast coffee this morning, and it was delicious. So kingscoastcoffee.com. I was drinking the Highlands Reserve this morning. Tim, what'd you have?
I had Aztec, and then I had a little bow breaker. So
there you go.
Yeah,
so kingscoastcoffee.com. Make sure you are part of the Kings Club, because that's where all the cool stuff, they find out about it before you do. So if you're not, now's a good time to join it.
Kingscoastcoffee.com. Kevin, cool stuff happened at GCX. We announced our after party.
Universal Studios.
We also started to announce some other things. We got our panel application up. So if you would like to host a panel of any sort, whatever you'd like to talk about, if you'd like to do it at GCX, you can head over to gcxevent.com and apply for a panel. Room block still available, Kevin? Can people get a bed if they want to come?
Yeah, over 50% sold. So and most of the room blocks sells like 2 months out. So June, July-ish is when it's going to probably go. But I will say this, there's another event at the hotel that weekend. So it's not like 2019 where we were the only show in town. And even when the room block sold, they extended it. This time they might not extend it. So get a room. GCXevent.com. Also, Alex and Molly from Star Wars Explain are back. They're going to be joining us on the Star Wars and Scotch panel again, and they're going to be doing a meet and greet, and they're just going to be hanging out on the floor like all the other creators do. Alex was excited. He asked me to come back. He was like, can we come back next year? I was like, of course you can come back next year. Why wouldn't you? I also owe him a drink, because if you remember at the end of last year's event, I was trying to get over to him and Molly to have a drink, and everyone kept pulling me. So Alex, Molly, I will have a drink with you this year. GCXevent.com. Adam, you're coming, right?
Yep, I'll be there.
Adam will be there too. So if you don't like anything he says today, you can complain to him in person.
Yeah, I'd love to hear it.
Anyway, let's get into it. So Adam, take us through the fan journey of Star Wars. We love to, like, where did it start? How did it begin? What's your earliest memory of something Star Wars in your life?
Yeah, I think, it's, cliche of like, oh, the original trilogy, obviously that's, kind of birthed, for, I think, a lot of people, except for nowadays with all this new content, I think there's a lot of good introductory, pieces to Star Wars. But for me, being in space, and all these worlds in this massive galaxy, but to me, it was the ships, like TIE fighters, X-Wings, TIE interceptors, all of that, like, just captivated me. And when I was really young, I was a big car guy. Like, I'd always have like all these die casts, like Hot Wheels and stuff like that. And then it was like, I need all of the TIE fighters that you can give me. I need all of these like little, and to me, that was like, I think the early kind of like, oh, I'm really getting into this. It's really exciting. It's this massive, huge world. There's all these unique characters. And it was kind of like the wow factor. And then obviously, as you get older, you start to dive in. Well, I mean, not everybody, but me, I start to dive into like, oh, like, well, there's lore and there's all these stories and canon. And then like, there's all these offshoots, and like, it's just kind of evolved over time to, obviously diving in a lot more deeper than just like, oh wow, cool things that like look cool and beep. So that's kind of where I started, just specifically off of like vehicles and like, you know, ships and stuff like that. And that was like that's what I can remember as like just being the coolest thing ever. That and pod racing, which came later, but you know.
So I have two questions. I have two questions for you then. Number one, they're both very divisive questions, so we're getting there. Number one, as a fan of, I guess, the ships, space battles, and all that stuff, how do you feel about the Holdo maneuver?
Oh.
I'm just gonna drink. Next question, please.
Wow. Okay.
What's wrong with that question? Answer it.
No. I think that. No. I just think that, you know, things that, you know, I think when you're talking about space battles and stuff like that, you know, obviously there's so many iconic scenes and stuff like that, and official maneuvers and stuff like that. I love what Family Guy did when they're talking about like, oh, you know, he's listing lazily to the left. You know, it's like, oh wow, this guy can really maneuver, and I just think it's so interesting. I love that there's like, for it being so futuristic and so much technology and all this stuff. I just feel like, you know, there's so many interesting things when it comes to space battles, and it's like, oh, like all of these cool facets that, you know, individuals can do. Yet I feel like there's so many times where it's like, man, this could be so much like simpler, I guess, if that makes sense. So I don't want to, you know, no comment. That comment, it's kind of shady. I don't know. You know, that's kind of like my answer. That's my sub answer. I don't know. I'm gonna drink again.
I like what you mentioned though about it, like the simplification of it, because I remember seeing the prequel trilogies when I was younger, and I was like, why did they jazz up all of the inside of the ships and make it look like more what we had in the original trilogy? And now the goal, Tim and I have talked about this a million times, is to make it look like the original trilogy, not the prequels. So it's funny that the oldest stuff in Star Wars is probably the most, and I'm using air quotes, modern version of what a cockpit looks like, versus now when they really try and mimic, you know, Lucas's original vision for what the ships could do and keep it with that 70s sci-fi vibe, I guess is the best way to put it. So yeah, I'm like you, like keep it simple. Like the targeting computer should just be and I don't need all this other gadgets and stuff. It should be pretty simplified. And I think in the more recent content, they've gone back to that. Even JJ, I remember him saying on panel, like, I'm using practical effects. Like, we're not going to CGI everything. I think George made a huge mistake with the prequel trilogy by CGIing the shit out of all of them.
I don't know. They produced a lot of great content that we have now, though. Just saying. Like,
yeah, I mean, Jar Jar's the foundation of being able to use that technology to put someone from CGI into a live action. 100% agree with you.
Of course, you would go right for Jar Jar.
Darth Jar Jar. Yeah.
Oh my God. Here we go.
There's no other. That's just the. So
that's the truth.
Yeah. And then what you said about pod racing. So my two least favorite movies are Episode 1 and 2. I actually dislike them more than, minus Duel of the Fates, I dislike them more than anything in the sequel trilogies.
Okay, hold on a second. What do you hate about 2?
It's boring.
Okay, there are definitely some good parts to 2.
There's good parts in all of the movies.
I was gonna say, like, Duel of Fates kind of to me is the reason I like Episode 1. It's like that's the reason I like it. Is because of Duel
I
of Fates.
agree. But I mean, like 2 is great. Coruscant. Like the whole high-speed chase through Coruscant's fun. Come on, we get the Death Sticks line. You want to buy some Death Sticks? Like that's a good part. It's very memorable.
Cool.
Camino.
We see
Jango Fett and Obi-Wan fighting.
Well, it's not that exciting.
I made contact with the Prime Minister of Camino. Come on, that's a great meme.
I sent you the meme. I sent you the guy who's like, dude, every time you're out in the rain, I sent him a TikTok the other day. Does anyone else do this? And it's that line and he's on his watch like this.
Okay, all right, hold on. The Battle of Geonosis is pretty sick.
All right.
God.
Yoda versus Dooku is the best part of the movie.
All right, so you like the ending of all 3 movies.
There's like a theme. Yeah, I was gonna say, like, there's a theme. You like the climax, kind of. Yeah.
But the path to get there. Now, Episode 3, I think, is a great movie. I get shit on for that all the time. I don't really care. But I think that's a fantastic movie. What I was getting at, the pod racing. I cannot stand that scene.
This is pod racing.
I'm also older than both of you, so I think my relationship with the original trilogy versus both of your relationship with the prequel trilogy is different based alone on our age and when we grew up. But
you're not that much older than us.
But the prequel trilogies came out when I was in high school. You both were not in high school yet. So I was looking at it from a very different lens.
I guess that's true, yeah.
Like my son's favorite content is the cartoons because that's what he has grown up on, not the movies. Now he's getting into the live action, like Mando's.
Yeah.
He got a Mando plushie while we were there from my mom. He got them, those plastic toys that they sell there with the action figures.
Mm-hmm.
He got the Mando set. Got his old, because my mother-in-law once, this is actually really funny, she didn't realize she was shopping in the First Order store and bought him all of this Imperial First Order shit. And then my wife's like, that's the bad guys, right, Mom? She goes, wait, what? She was like, yeah, you just bought him all bad guy stuff. So he has all these troopers. He's got Death Troopers. He's got all the different troopers. So he laid them all out on the kitchen counter, and he's got them all out there, and he's got the Mando figurines. And I hear him while I'm working at the table the other day. He's like, come on, Bo, we have to save Grogu. And then the Death Trooper comes in and he goes like this. He's like, with his hands. And like,
oh,
I love that.
I was
so
like, this
much.
is adorable.
I love that so much.
It's all based on when you kind of consume the content, I think has a huge factor of, and we even the generation under you guys, they don't hate the sequel trilogy. Like, the older
they love it.
Right. So I think that has a lot to do with it. So I think that's part of the reason I'm not the biggest fan of the prequel. But the pod racing, now, is it because of the game or is it because of the scene, Adam?
I was literally about to add. So Sega Dreamcast, I definitely played the game a lot, and that kind of I think added to it because I have so many quick story when my mom used to go and set out our stocking stuffers, right? This was around Christmas time. And I got in the game as a stocking stuffer and I knew I was going to. And so when you're a kid and you wake up, I always love Christmas. Christmas is my favorite time of year. I still love it to this day, right? I deck the halls and everything, right? So when I was younger, I would go down to the fireplace and I'd check the stocking stuffer. And I was like, I want this game. I want to play this game. It was like, it's Christmas break. That's all I want to do. And I get down there and none of the stockings are in. Like my mom overslept or forgot to do it or something. But I knew where she hid the stocking stuffers. So I went in and I grabbed one for everybody, but I specifically grabbed the pod racing game because I was like, I want to play this so bad. And I put them in, and then I was playing for probably an hour and a half. And then she's like, I hear her downstairs and I run downstairs and I'm like, hey Mom, thanks for the pod racing game. And she's like, I never put them out last night, Adam. But she just laughed about it because everybody else, I made sure I was smart about it. I was like, oh, okay, my sisters, my brother, everybody's going to get, everybody's going to get one. But yeah, I think that had a big play on it. But I'm a huge Darth Maul fan. I have the mythos from a sideshow that I love Darth Maul. He's my favorite character, probably all of Star Wars. And so just obviously that was your kind of Duel of Fates. You can't say, there's nothing Duel of Fates, that's all you need to say. But I think that was the big part of it for me was that and the pod racing. And that's just, I just remember those two pieces. And then it's you go into the later content, like you said, Clone Wars. I remember, I think specifically I was talking to you guys when we were talking and I was like, oh, I haven't checked out Clone Wars because I watched the first 2 seasons and it was very episodic and there wasn't much, so I was like, I don't really know. And you both were like, no, Adam, you have to continue watching. If you like these, you have to. And that was the greatest advice I had ever received because I will never in my life forget when Maul and Ahsoka are on Mandalore facing off against each other I will never forget that in my entire life. That may be the greatest scene of ever. That was so profound to me, just the imagery that they used and everything like that. But it got so deep, and so that's kind of rambling.
You haven't watched Rebels yet, right?
I watched Rebels.
Okay,
I watched Rebels. Of course I did. Yeah. It was the same thing because you guys told me incongruent with that. You're it starts off a little episodic and a little bit more kid toned, which is fine. But he's like, no, it gets really good. You've got Maul, you've got Thrawn, and again, it was and you get the infamous Kenobi, really? Like I was like, oh God, it's so good. So it was that kind of, I think, reignited a lot of the passion, like because I was already a big fan, but then like I started diving into it, and then I was just like I was like a giddy kid all over again, where I'm like, oh my God, this is incredible. Like, anyway, yeah. So I will say this is my one piece. I want a Darth Maul series or a movie or something. He is way too good of a character, complex, rich backstory, all this cool stuff that you can do from a lot of different times that he kind of exists. Please make it happen, please.
I think a pre-episode 1 Darth Maul content is the only thing that makes sense at this point. We've kind of seen his journey outside of that already.
We saw him in live action Solo, so it would make sense for them to pick it up somewhere there where he's leading the Black Sun.
Do that.
Which is what I was so excited about.
I know. I wish they would have carried that on, because like we have Kira. What's the girl's name? That
Kira.
Swans love. Yeah, Kira, right? It's like that whole like thing is still there. Like they still have a lot of content that they could run with.
100%. And I've read the books from him, and like, his treatment from Palpatine, and kind of how, and there's the whole like Legends canon and, all this kind of stuff, right? Like, and all that factors in, but it's like, there's so much there that I think you could do. And I think it's I could go on. Like, I want a gritty Star Wars war movie. Like, I want all these things that are like, look, I get it. It's Star Wars. You want to kid friendly and all of that, but like, make shows for that. And then, I want something adult and gritty and dark, and like, let's get some different perspective than like, like give me a dark side, give me a Sith story, give me something like that,
Acolyte. You're getting one very
soon. Sure. Yeah.
The other rumor I've been seeing turning on the rumor mill is I don't know if you guys saw the Werewolf Marvel Halloween special. I forget what it's called, Werewolf at Night or something. The black and white one.
Yeah.
I heard of it. I never watched it.
It was fantastic. I highly recommend it. It introduced Emma Bloodstone into MCU too, which was awesome. But people are saying do Star Wars, like do the same thing.
Yeah,
like cool. a quick 45-minute, creepy but not over the top, that PG-13 horror. And Tim and I keep saying like Project Blackwing. I don't know if you know Project Blackwing is it's essentially the beginnings of the necrotic process to make Death Troopers, which now from Bad Batch we think is Death Troopers are clones that were left over, best way to put it. But one of the ships went rogue, but like the virus got out, it went derelict, and now there's like zombie troopers in space. If you Google it, it's canon, and like people have made fan art for it and videos and stuff.
Well, there's a book too, right? Isn't there a book that has like that's like Republic? I think it's like older, but like I remember there being like a zombie. I'm a huge book guy, like Darth Bane trilogy, like Shadowhunter. Like I've listened to so many Star Wars books, but I remember reading something like that, and I felt like it was older, but it was definitely that vibe of like, oh, there's these like mutated like Republic troopers or something, and I'm like, this seems interesting.
And at its core, Star Wars is for kids. But like when people are like, "Oh, Clone Wars is a kid show," I'm like, you haven't gotten to Dathomir yet. Let me know when you're done with that.
Yeah. Oh yeah. That's something my mom would not let me watch when I was younger. I can tell you that much right now. It's like,
I let my son watch it. I warned him. I was like, "It's creepy. Like Mother Talzin is creepy. Are you okay with this?" And he's like, "Yeah, no, I can do it." And he was like, "Dad, she's creepy." I was like, "Oh, I know." I was like. And I'm waiting for the part where he gets to the fight with Grievous. We haven't gotten there yet. We just started season 4, so we're up to the Mon Cala.
It's the good stuff. It's the good stuff.
Oh no, it just flies from here. He was so broken up about Echo. Oh my God, we watched the Echo episode the other day, and he was like, "No, what happened to Echo?" I was like, he sacrificed himself for the rest. And in my head, I'm like, "Don't worry, you'll see him again."
Yeah,
I mean, we don't know.
Yeah. I mean, I think we know, but like, yeah, no, 100%. I with Bad Batch, it's like, man, there's, and again, you guys are like my experts, I guess. Like, if I consider myself a soft expert, you guys are the hard experts, right? Because same thing, we talked about Bad Batch at PAX East, and you're talking about the latest episodes, and I'm like, yeah, I haven't really gotten like into it this season as much. Like, it's pretty, and they're like, no, you need to watch in it. And it was like, it was the intrigue and subterfuge with like the what's her name? Oh my God.
Omega?
Yes. Omega, and I'm blanking on the from the main world, the senator. What's her name? That was like
Chuchi?
Yes, I believe so. Yes, like, but it was that whole subterfuge of like they're trying to kill her, like, and then you start getting into like
Yeah.
the nitty gritty, and then like towards the end, right, with Echo and like the bass and all. I'm like, oh my god, this has gotten so good. Like, and they're doing one more season, and I'm just hoping that like they really tell a congruent, like deep story the entire time, because I feel like that's when they really thrive.
Do you feel like, so obviously when Bad Batch ends, we get something else, something new will come to animated, that they're, because they work on like one show at a time animated, it seems like that team, because it's the same animation team that's made all Rebels, Clone Wars, Tales of the Jedi. Two things on that. One, I really want to see a Tales of the Sith show. I saw someone tweet about that the other day, and they were like, why aren't we getting like Maul and Dooku and Bane? I was like, oh my god, a 10-minute Darth Bane Tales of the Sith to introduce like the casual fan to him. I was like, oh. And then someone else on the thread was like, what about Revan? Like that could be the gateway. Like Revan's, we know Revan's canon,
right?
But like a quick 10-minute like Revan versus Malik story, I was like, oh my god, I can only get so hard. So dude, Tim, come on, you wouldn't do the Tales of the Sith, you edgelord.
I agree with you, Kevin. I'm right there with you. You just went right for it.
I also am, to be honest. Like I said, I want that. Like I want that different perspective, because I feel like we've had the same for so long, and it's like, I like Solo. I enjoyed that movie, and when it was like you get to the end and he's there, and it's like, oh, there's like going to be so much more you can build off of this. Unfortunately, it didn't do well, so they scrapped all the projects, right? But to me, give me Sith, give me, you know what I mean? Like the best part of the latest trilogy, I guess, is that when they're in the Sith, like in that temple, right? And they're, you've got all of these. I'm like, this is what I want. Like, give me like nitty gritty Sith stories. Give me different perspective, right? Like make those, like, I think that's a fantastic idea of like Tales of the Sith, right? Bite-sized things that can introduce larger narrative or larger stories. And like, you can kind of test like what resonates with the audience today.
Yeah.
Right. And I think too, and what I was getting at with the animated, if the introduction to making Old Republic content was in animation and not a movie, I think it's a great litmus test for them to see what's going to work with. Are the hardcores going to support us in this? Like, because at this point, the fan base is screaming for Old Republic. Celebration was great. We got a ton of great announcements. No mention of Old Republic drove everyone nuts again. That there's no new content, like not even books.
It's bad.
It is. And like High Republic, we know, is wrapping up after the next phase for the book. And by wrap up, we mean in succession. They're obviously going to continue telling stories. Right. But like the blast of stories that we're getting right now. So I'm really wondering if animation's the gateway. Like, is that how we get introduced to the Old Republic? And to, get kids to understand, like, we're going to go to a new era. There's tons of Jedi and Sith. They fight each other. There's an Empire and a Republic coexisting at the same time. Like all of the stuff that they're not used to. So I'm wondering if at the end of Bad Batch, is that the introduction then or are they going to jump to a High Republic animated series, which I really don't want them to do, but I feel like they're obsessed with the High Republic right now.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know, Tim, if you want to answer. I mean, I feel like I'm just talking a lot here because
you're the guest, dude.
But yeah, I agree. I think that, I mean, obviously they're full blown on High Republic, and to be honest, I haven't gotten into High Republic like hardly at all. Like it's not my expertise. Like I totally get it, but like Old Republic, but like kind of talking like that when you mentioned Bane, like I listened, I didn't read. Like I said, audiobooks, like those are full blown production when you got like the music and effects and all that stuff. But I did the Darth Bane trilogy, and that was the coolest trilogy ever, because to me it was like really that like real glimpse of like you've got thousands of Sith and thousands of, you know what I mean, like hundreds of thousands, like, and it's at the height, and there's this war that's constant, and you see the constant struggle of like the dark side pull and like all that, and then you've got all these like individuals that work underneath, and it's like how they're treated, how they're dealing with all of this stuff. I think that would be a fantastic option. I don't think they're going to do it. I think they'll probably do something High Republic, because that's what they're like trending towards, and that's what they're kind of, saying like, hey, here's all of our content. I mean, we'll talk about the game and other stuff later, but like, we're looking at, like, to me, that's the focus. as much as I would love to have some Old Republic stuff, give me some, Revan, or give me some Bane, or, give these, because there's so many good characters that are built that you could introduce and then expand from. I just don't see them doing it though, which is what's frustrating to me.
I think I still really, really hope that we're not gonna get any Knights of the Old Republic content until the video game. But we've talked about it a couple times. We don't know what's going to happen with that video game. So I really feel like they're still holding on to it. And I think to your point, like they're definitely leaning hard into the High Republic stuff. Especially, we've got it in video. We got High Republic content in a video game. We've got High Republic coming up in a Disney Plus show. We've got the comics. We have the books. Like there's so much High Republic content right now. It would be really weird for them to then just like jump again. I think what's going to happen is that we've got this High Republic laid out. They already like have the content made for it. I think the next big thing that we're going to see is we're going to go back to the Dawn of the Jedi. I think that's going to be their next thing. As I think they're going to go all the way to the beginning, and then they're going to push forward. And I think we're going to get Dawn of the Jedi, and then we'll go into we'll go into the Old Republic, and then we already have the High Republic done, and the Skywalker saga is already done. So you've got you're pretty much done by that point. Then you can go right into the next phase with that Daisy's going to be a part of this beginning of the new Jedi Order.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, which the rumor is, we can talk about that while we're talking about this, is that she's just going to be a supporting role. She's not the star.
Good.
Which is interesting and
furthers
our Grogu theory, Tim.
Yeah, I think so, Kevin. And I think it also is like them holding true to what them saying that the Skywalker saga is over. Because if they would have started the Dawn of the Jedi or the new Jedi or the New Order or whatever this new era has been called, if they started it off again with her, then that's a continuation of the Skywalker saga.
Right.
So I'm glad that I'm glad that hopefully if they do it that way, that'll make me happy, because if they don't, then I'm really upset they're holding on to like this old way of doing Star Wars they said they were not going to do.
That it also, like, if we meet Grogu, he's not going to be a Jedi. We're going to meet him as a Mandalorian.
Well, I mean, he would be a both. Yeah, I mean, like he would be a Mandalorian that is.
But he's going to have no formal Jedi training, like just
right,
what he
exactly.
had
No, she's
Luke.
Right, he's going to have the stuff that he learned from Luke for those 2 years and the stuff that he developed on his own.
Which will be interesting.
Yeah.
Means he'll fight with anger and, all
I mean, he's going to be right in the middle. He's
that great, the gray Jedi, right? I think, it's like the commonality.
Disney hates that word.
Yeah, around here.
I love it, right? Because I just feel like that I think that touches into the human nature of like the balance, right? Of you lean into these, passion or peace or whatever, right? And it's like expand on that, right? Because that's just nature, right?
Well, Disney has actually been the ones to propagate that the balance in the Force is the way, not the extremism.
Yep.
Which is interesting that they would abandon the Gray Jedi, but I think balance is what they want people to associate with, not the Gray Jedi.
They didn't abandon it. They just changed the name.
And now that they're bringing Dark Jedi into the scenario with Ahsoka, I have a feeling that means Gray Jedi could be back on the table because.
But no, they already have it. It's a Wayfinder. Wayfinders are Gray Jedi.
But that's High Republic. We don't know if that changed with the ages. Because Wayfinder is officially sanctioned by the Jedi Order. Gray Jedi are outcasts of the Jedi Order, self-proclaimed.
Yeah, but then I don't think they would hold on to the title Jedi then. They would call themselves something else.
It's literally a sliding scale. That's what it is. Like you're either super evil or super light.
Yeah, it's just like it's like your D&D scales and stuff. It's just like I don't know what Disney would call it then, because like I don't even know if they're gonna call these guys Dark Jedi. Like they might give them a completely different name. Is that officially called Dark Jedi because they're called that in Heir to the Empire? Because there
we
is
need
no
to know
chat.
if that's official.
There is no.
They'll let us know. Don't worry, Tim. It'll take a few days.
Oh, that chat. You looked at your computer like you were looking for a comment to come across, and I was like, "Oh, yeah. Kevin."
Yeah, please.
I'm putting out the tag us in socials. Tag Adam too. Arcane Adam, right, on Twitter.
Yep, that's me. Or Arcane Adam TV, I guess.
Arcane Adam TV. So tag Adam in the response to that too as well, please. Thank you. Good.
Now let's talk Star Wars.
Oh, don't worry, they will. So yeah, let us know if that's official. But yeah, it's essentially like you said, that D&D scale of morality, where you can lean evil and still be good. Not evil, dark. Let's get the terminology correct, and still be good. you could lean light and be a Wayfinder, but Wayfinder again, they're officially sanctioned by the Jedi Order. Gray is you're an outcast, like, you know. But then you have guys like Qui-Gon and Mace who are like,
I mean, like,
great Jedi.
I assume that's kind of like where Ahsoka goes. Like, I mean, like, she is the only one that we know of that was like outcasted that then continued to like teach.
She left on her own volition, though. She wasn't kicked out.
That's what I was going to ask.
She was
like,
kicked out.
No, she left.
No, she left.
They brought her back. They kicked her out. They were trying to arrest her. They realized that she got framed, and they were like, "Oh, you can come back." And she was just like, "Fuck you guys. Why would I do that?" So she did technically get kicked out, and she was never reinstated back into the Jedi Order. So she still holds on to the outcast status.
I was going to say, what would you call Ahsoka?
An outcast.
An outcast.
Great
Or
Jedi.
someone in exile, they would call, or I mean, like, what's the other word?
Even after the invitation back, like, hey, we messed up, come back, and she's like, no,
Jedi.
you still say Gray Jedi.
Yeah,
Okay.
she would still be a Gray Jedi.
Yeah.
But,
She also fights with anger in the books.
well, I mean, so does
She
Rey.
taps into it. So does Rey. So does Mace.
They don't
Qui-Gon,
give her a title of like Gray.
Rumor is Yoda does it too, but he just doesn't tell anybody.
But they
Although
all
Yoda's
realize
very
He's on a league on his
tranquil.
own, though. I feel like, you know, yeah.
Game, Kevin. Oh,
That's what I'm saying, Tim. I'm like, there's so many things I want to mention, but I can't because Kevin hasn't finished the game.
No. You're fine. It's just like it's all going into what you're saying about how Disney's trying to like just muddle the line, and they're just trying to show that like this whole of like good and evil, or this like light side, dark side is so it's so it's so polarizing, and it's so defeating, really, at the end of the day. Like it's doing no one any good but harm, and so like it's really interesting to see.
One question about the game. We can talk about the game with as little spoilers as possible. Sorry, I'm doing my best. I will play some tonight. I'm gonna go home. I'm gonna eat. I'm gonna work out.
When
and I will
he says
play
he
some more
plays, he's gonna find all of the cosmetics in the one sector that he is in right now.
Look, it took me like 15 minutes to figure out that those bombs will follow you if you leave the thing in the tar area.
If you pick them up and hold them, you can hold them. You can hold them for 5 seconds, so you can pick it up and throw it.
Right, but I had 3 pathways that I had to blow up, so I had to make it follow me to the area, then pick it up, and then throw it. That took me like 15 minutes to figure out that it wouldn't follow me all the way over there.
Yeah.
Anyway, what I was asking is, the senator in the beginning, is that the same senator that's in the trailer?
Yes.
Okay, just making sure.
Yes.
When I first glanced at
it, they made him look a little different in the trailer.
Right, that was why I was confused. I wanted to make sure that it was the same guy.
I will say that they've done a great job of doing like what Disney does with trailers, where they make you believe one thing and then you play through it and you're like, what? So yeah, the entire what they showed us versus what you play, they really did a good job of keeping it all under wraps. I will say that.
I enjoyed the opening conversation. Well, not opening, but when you get to the end of the Coruscant beginning, the conversation between the two of them about the morality of what he did versus, like, you know, it's like, oh, I did what was best for my people, and they're like, well, if you go ask people at the top,
Kevin, that is a recurring theme. I will just
of course
say that much.
That's like, Star Wars.
That is the tone. Yeah, but and that's the thing. Back to what you were saying earlier. You know, it's all about through the lens that you're looking at. You know, morality is subjective. You know?
I laughed so hard when the Ninth Sister showed up. I was like, "Oh, we wasted no time."
I thought
establishing that.
What was so funny about that is that I just did a playthrough of Fallen Order before, like this past week.
I was watching you do it, and you said no body,
and that's been the ongoing joke in my stream for whenever we do a Dark Picture Anthology playthrough. Is that if someone looks like they die, but there's no body that's highlighted in the game, then therefore and thusly they didn't die. And it's true. It really does hold true in most video games. And so if there isn't a body, so we never saw the Ninth Sister's body. She got launched through a wall, and that was it. And I was like, she's coming back in the second game. Open up, Ninth Sister. It was so good.
Hey, before we go any further, let's take a quick break. We're going to pay some bills. We'll be back in 2 seconds. Some more questions for Adam and more Jedi Survivor. Be right back.
No, it won't be more Jedi Survivor when we get back because Kevin hasn't played the goddamn game yet.
Well, we're back, and Tim is mad at me again. I am sorry that I am no longer a streamer and can't
God,
play.
You're such a good dad. Oh, you make me so mad.
Going and making dreams happen. How dare you?
I would not be done even if it wasn't my daughter's birthday. Like, I would still have to. But I told my wife, I was like, because my original plan was to stream it, but the electrical situation in my garage is a whole problem. So that's a whole other issue. But I told my wife, I was like, I have to play this game as much as I can. She's like, well, we just went to Disney, so we ain't going out to eat or anything this week. So you're just go to town. I will watch my trash shows on the iPad and have fun. So nice. I'm going to do my best to at least get like 20 hours in by the time next week rolls.
Oh, perfect.
around.
You'll be done.
Yeah.
No, I won't, because you know how I play games.
Just focus, Kevin. Just focus. That's all you got to do. It's like
but
when I'm given a choice,
go back after.
Go back. That's what I'm doing. Story. That's literally what I'm doing. And I can't even talk about extra things that like would help with my argument because I can't talk about it because I don't want to ruin shit.
I've already mentally cataloged everything on Coruscant that I couldn't open. And once I have the ability to open
okay, I want you to know that you will not be able to open that shit until the end of the game. I'm just telling you that now. I couldn't 100%. Open it until today. So don't think about it because you won't be able to do it.
Also, another question.
It's not even that great. I just want you to know that.
Do I need to have a build, or is it all based on, like, can I maximize my skill tree?
Yeah, I mean, like, I mean, the way that they've set it up is that you can indefinitely just continue to get XP points, and so you can unlock everything in the game.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
And then when you do New Game Plus, it just all carries over.
Right, and you can just start from where you were. Okay. Just making sure.
Your choice, your freedom, you know? I chose on specific paths, and then it was just like, I just kept getting... So I was like, I'll just expand. I'll just expand and expand and expand.
The other thing I'm having to get used to is parry in the game I was playing previously versus parry in this game is two completely different cadences.
Weird in this game.
Yeah, because it's like sometimes you have to parry and hold.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm used to like parry,
right?
Parry,
you tap parry,
versus
hold it.
It's weird because like a hold doesn't like a hold gives you like just like a passive block. Whereas like the tap is like the timing one, but yeah, it's really awkward. And it took me a day to really like get used to it.
I did the training every time.
I did the trainings at one of the meditation points and it got me reacquainted. So
you can respec your tree too. So if you like commit to a stance and you're just like, I don't like this, you can just then dump all your points into something else.
I'm basically focusing on being tanky at the moment because I keep finding myself like getting hit because I'm not used to the parry situation yet. So once I'm used to parry, survival tree. So essentially once that happens, then I'll but also the other advantage to exploring is that you can get more
and that was my point, is that the stim slots and then also the upgrades to your force bar and your health bar, they do a really good job of putting those in like really nice spots where you can just like find them. Also, you don't have to pick up 3 of each kind to then increase your bar by X amount. You just pick up 1 now, which is really good. Like overall, like my Jedi Fallen Order playthrough and my Survivor playthrough, like my health bar in Survivor was probably 3x bigger than it was in Survivor, just because it was so much easier to find these upgrades, and then also the skill tree as well. But honestly, most of my force and health bar came from just finding it naturally as I played along in the game.
Did you guys see the mullet?
I did the mullet for about 10 minutes and I did one cutscene with it and it ruined my experience, so I turned it off.
I did the mullet and I gave him a blue shirt and red pants, so he's like Super America right now.
Yeah, I did mutton chops for a bit. And then today we got a Rambo headband with long hair, full beard, and then he's got a tactical orange vest on with a bullet like the bandolier across.
Yeah, the bandolier. Yeah.
The bandolier across, and then he's got a big belt buckle, and so he looks like Walker Texas Ranger.
Seriously.
Mm-hmm.
What about you, Adam?
Yeah, no, I got a lot of it, but I was just like, man, I like Tim. What happened to Tim? I was like, I don't want to go to a cutscene and see Bro America just like slamming PBRs while we're having this emotional whatever cutscene or whatever it may be. So I'm like, I just kept him true to form with at least the facial features. Now I customized the shit out of his wardrobe like all the time. I was like, oh, cool. Like, but yeah, I just couldn't do it.
Okay, I finished Battle Scars today too, by the way, Tim. Which Adam,
okay, can you just tell me how it ends?
I downloaded it. I downloaded it on my phone.
I don't think there was a goddamn point to that book bridging us to this. because
Perfect. Okay, because I just
still have no idea why the Mantis crew is not with me in the beginning, and it's all these strangers that I've never met before.
Well, because you have to remember it's 2.5 years after, or it's it's 2.5 years after the book
would like.
Oh, I know.
What's the point of the book?
Kevin, the entire time I played this game, I think there was probably 5 instances where I go, why was there a book? Why did this happen? This wasn't in the book. You know, it's just.
I'm not looking at either of you just so you don't react to this. The only part of the book that seemed meaningful was the fact that the 5th brother showed up in the book. That was it. I did not get any. Oh, and Grease lost an arm. Aside from that, I had no other reason.
And it's Cal's fault. He's upset about that, right? He's like really he's like really emotional about it. Eh?
No.
Okay. In the video game, they made it seem like he was really messed up.
He was like, "I'm sorry." Like,
he was like really upset about it.
Cal's like internalizing all the blame for everything in the book. That's pretty much. You know how Seer does that too.
Okay. How about Marin? What happened? Does it get any better, or is it still kind of just the same?
No, they had the whole thing. They found. Oh, I don't know if you knew. I don't know how far you got, but they found Fret's actual wife.
Oh, she was cheating on her.
Well, she claims she didn't know she was still alive because she was being held by the Empire because she is the one that has the shroud technology in her brain because she's an engineer.
That book is. I don't understand.
I don't either. And then because of that, like Fret and I think her name was. I can't remember what the other one's name was. Fret and the wife invite Marin to come.
This book for you, Adam. It's trash.
I just don't think I'm gonna. It's already there.
I would refund.
I got nothing out of it.
Okay, fair enough.
Fret and the wife invite Marin to be a throuple, essentially, Tim, at the end of the book. And Marin's like, "No, I'm gonna hang with them." And then they're like, "All right, cool. You know, if you ever want to come have a roll in the hay, just come see us." And she's like, "All right." And that's kind of how they leave that. Yeah, it was completely pointless in my opinion. Aside from, I don't know if the shroud comes to play.
So it's essentially it's the exact same thing they did for Battlefront because Inferno Squad. They're like,
what did you say? Yeah, you said that was pointless.
You have to read this book before playing Battlefront, and I read this book, and I got to Battlefront. I'm like, I don't get it.
Like I said, the only thing, again, I'm not looking at you. The only thing that I got out of it was the 5th brother shows up, which is great because he's an iconic Inquisitor. And then I don't know if the shroud, which is the thing that's in the wife's head, comes into play in the game. It's technology that
I don't know what you're talking about, so don't worry.
Exactly. Okay, perfect. Because they didn't really explain what it was in the book either. So
we're shrouded by your conversation right now. So
great, perfect. Yeah. Moving along. So that was me. So that and then Grease losing his arm was pretty much all I got out of the book.
And honestly, Grease's new arm is pretty sick. So
yeah, I loved it.
That was all I got out of the book. So it was just I'm on to Cataclysm now. Cataclysm is starting off.
I heard it's really
awesome.
Good. Yeah.
Awesome.
I had someone in my chat come out like, "Have you finished Cataclysm yet?" And I'm like, "No." They're like, "You need to. It's a banger." I'm like, "Oh, okay. Well, all right."
Yeah, it is off to a great start. I am very pleased with Cataclysm.
I'm finishing up Heir to the Empire right now. I don't.
Do you like it any more than you did? Did you ever read Heir to the Empire, Adam?
No, I have. There's a long list of books that I'm still getting through, but I've started a new trilogy completely separate, and now I'm stuck in that. So
Kevin did that for a while. I took a Star Wars break.
Yeah, my problem is I want to read other, like I want to get into the Witcher series, I want to get into Wheel of Time, I wanted to get into all these other series, but I can't because Star Wars just keeps pumping out contests, and this damn podcast that I love so much requires me to read all these books.
Which podcast is that?
The one we're on right now.
Oh, this one.
You mean Star Wars and Scotch?
Oh, okay.
Yeah. That's fantastic.
I don't have another podcast anymore, Tim. I killed them all.
Oh,
because this one's the best one, so I just stuck with this one. But yeah, so I can't read other books. Like when Warcraft came out with the new expansion, I read a Warcraft book that had nothing to do with the expansion, just to get in the mood. But then like another Star Wars book came out, so I had to like simultaneously juggle.
That's so hard though, because
that sounds rough. Juggle in your head.
Yeah,
thank you.
And then my son likes to listen to them too, so he's into Cataclysm with me. But Battlescars got too racy because they really pushed the relationship between Marin and her lover, which was completely pointless. It had no end game whatsoever to the plot. And it turned into like, I was in the kitchen cooking breakfast. My wife's like, "What the hell are you listening to?" was like, I don't know, something hot breath on her neck. This sucks. I'm just not into it.
It was one of those like the bad adult novels. Like the bad ones that you get from like the bin in Kmart where like you see your mom looking through as a kid.
If you really want to know what happens in Battle Scars, just like do a 15-minute YouTube video. Like,
yeah, it sounds like Cataclysm is the way to go. So maybe I'll refund and
High Republic.
Yeah.
Like way back.
Yeah, that'll be a while though, because like I said, I'm going through a totally different, unrelated Star Wars series that's like 9 books long. That is absolutely incredible. So it's like I can't hop back and forth like you. Like I just can't do it. I'm like I'm committed to this story until I can't listen anymore.
Well, the good thing about High Republic is when you get caught up, you're caught up. Like you can move on to the next thing because there's no other book until the next one comes out.
Sure.
So, but it's High Republic. Not this book, not the one before it, but the one before that had one of the most iconic, I will say, Star Wars moments. Tim and I agreed on this. The wedding.
Oh yeah, no, like that.
It was
by
like
far
the
some
music,
of the best Star Wars literature I've ever.
It was amazing the way they described this scene, and Tim and I were like, "That was one of the." It's the highlight of the High Republic.
It was right out of a movie. It was like you could see it in your head. Like it was just like back to like two Jedis like back to back, like swirling their lightsabers and blocking like fucking blaster bolts and shit. Like it was so
and they had
cool.
The music like
yeah, and then the two are saying they're saying their vows as like blaster bolts and shit are going on. It's just like it was so great. But to answer your question, Kevin, Heir to the Empire, you can definitely see the age of the character. Versus, like, so when Timothy Zahn wrote that 20 years ago versus the Thrawn that Timothy Zahn wrote 20 years after the fact, Thrawn is definitely a completely different character. Like the backstory is completely different. The universe is different. The way they go about looking at Jedi and like how they're handled, like the idea of just being able to just have like cloned people, like this Jedi Master Sebaioth. He cloned himself. He's a clone. Like, so this dark Jedi that Thrawn goes out seeking, that apparently there's also these cats that can suppress the Force. All this shit. There's all this crazy stuff that gets introduced into this book that is just like so out far left field because it's so different than what I'm used to. But the reason why I wanted to subject myself to it is because I wanted to see what they would pull from Heir to the Empire and put in Ahsoka. Like, there's no way they don't. Like, but at the same time,
100%.
Like, at the same time, I'm still very lost with how they pull from that when you've spent so much time building up Thrawn in 6 books. You know, the character Thrawn has taken 6 books to build up an entire backstory to get us to the point where we meet him in Ahsoka. So what from Heir to the Empire do they pull to make that all fit?
But that's what people have to understand is when we're going to introduce Legends characters, they're not going to be the character you knew in Legends. They have to adapt them to the new universe. So if I saw someone on Reddit write the perfect introduction for Mara Jade and Kyle Katarn into like the weird limbo period we're in now, which is post Empire, pre First Order.
Mara Jade also gets introduced in Heir to the Empire. I didn't know she's in Heir to the Empire.
That's where she's an assassin.
But like she's an assassin, and her whole connection with Luke, he ends up like meeting her he goes to Dagobah to try to find anything that's in Yoda's house, and like in 6 months' time, like the entire house is like completely destroyed or something there. But he goes to the cave. And like he goes to the cave and he ends up like having a vision of Mara Jade. So like that's how like they're like connected by the Force. Like it's so crazy. It's a really cool book. I like it, but at the same time, I'm just like I like the Thrawn I have now. It makes me very happy.
There's more coming, which is great.
Oh, dude, I'm so excited.
I'm so excited.
He really is my favorite Star Wars character because he's one of those like just badasses that you can relate to because he doesn't have superpowers.
Mm-hmm.
You know, like he's not a Jedi, you know, he's not like this Force wielder, but he's such a badass.
You know the store when you walk out of Star Tours?
Yeah.
They have a mural for sale.
Uh-huh.
Not a mural, but like a really big painting of Thrawn like this.
On his
in
chair.
His office.
I've seen it.
With the things from Clone Wars and Rebels behind him.
How much
from Rebels?
You should have taken a picture. I wanted to see it.
I should have. I didn't think because that's when the guy kept.
I've seen that picture on Google Image.
I was literally the guy. One of the cast members was like, "Hey, have you held the Obi-Wan lightsaber?" And I was like, "No." I was like, "Oh, it feels so good." And he was like, "We have Mace's lightsaber too." And I was like,
Oh, it's so amazing.
I was like, oh my God, I could spend like $1,000 right now.
Yeah, it's scary.
Like,
it's scary.
Would you like to hold? And he kept handing me lights. I was like, holy shit, you gotta stop.
Stop. Yeah.
And
this isn't about me.
And they had the Darksaber on display. My son's like, ooh, can my dad hold the Darksaber? And I was like, why did you no? And the guy's like, yeah. I was like, how much is this? And he's like, it's $260. And I was like, Black Series, right?
That's their going price for them.
And he's like, so then when was it?
Was that the black? Is that the one that I have? Is it the Hasbro Black Series one?
Yeah, it was that one.
It was $260 at Disney.
Yeah,
I didn't pay that much for it.
So then maybe it was a different one. This was heavy. It felt like
mine's heavy. Mine feels like.
And then maybe it was marked up.
Maybe it's just the Disney upsell. Yeah, like markup.
Probably they got you trapped. The mouse.
Yeah, they're there, right? Like
pay up.
So Tim sends me the thing this morning. He's like, I'm getting the Cal Kestis lightsaber. I said, I almost bought the Darksaber. A cast member was letting me hold all the lightsabers. And Tim called me a coward. He said, you could have been Mandalorian and ruled by my side. I said, my wife would have murdered me and been the new ruler of Mandalore. That's what would have happened.
Sacrifices need to be made, Kevin. Okay.
Not after a Disney trip when you've already spent that much money. But yeah, the thing they had for Thrawn was amazing. Also, they have new ears, Tim.
Yeah.
They're Mickey ears with Ahsoka's Leku.
Oh,
I saw a ton of people wearing them. Yeah, I was like,
that is awesome.
Not like Montrolls. I forget what they're called, but whatever they are.
No, you're right. Yeah, no, you're right. Starts with an M.
Yeah, those.
And then this is Leku, and then the top part is the Mondrels.
Yeah. So yeah, no, it was cool to see. So my favorite Jedi getting some love, even though she's not Jedi. But she might be after her show. We'll see. But Adam, we have a few minutes left, so I want to ask the questions that I ask every guest we have. What's the best piece of Star Wars content? Like, what is it for you? What's the one that's like end to end? You're just like, that's it. It's perfect.
I mean, I don't know. We kind of highlighted on a couple, like, like I said, Darth Maul is like kind of my go-to. So like Duel of Fates, like, it's Duel of Fates. You know what I mean? The whole sequence is amazing. But I really think that character, I guess you could just say that character, like, because there's moments, right? Like I said already on Mandalore with him and Ahsoka is like, I will never forget that scene with the way they did the lighting and like the explosions in the background and just like this. He was correct. He was right, but like it was just like he was so close. And then like obviously at the end of Rebels, spoilers or whatever, but like it's the progression of Obi-Wan going through the different stances to realize like I know this is it. And at the end, it was just like I get goosebumps now talking about it, right? Like that culmination was such a beautiful piece to me. Like, so I think for him, like that is probably my best, but I think it's just because of the way they've told that whole story. And that's why I want more, because I feel like there's so much more depth to that character, right? And I would love to see something pre that I've read in books where it's like Palpatine treating him almost like a dog to like train him, like in the sense of like, go out and do my bidding. And like him being like, oh, Palpatine just complimented me, which means pain's going to follow. Like, you did a good job. Now here's more pain and suffering. Like, it's just like, there's so much good stuff there that they can do. So I think if it were to me, like to sum up like what it is I think it's Darth Maul because of those like iconic moments that like, I think just kind of overarching story. He has such a good piece with all the content that's already out there.
My two favorite lines from those final Clone Wars episodes of Maul is when Ahsoka says, I'm here to bring you to justice. And Maul says, justice is merely the construct of the current power base, a base which, according to my calculations, is about to change. I was like, oh my God, that's deep.
Yeah.
And then after she beats him, I love when she says, you're lucky Anakin didn't show up. The way you're fighting, you wouldn't have lasted this long. And Maul goes, oh, you have Kenobi's arrogance. I was like, oh.
It's so deep. And there's like, and like, even like, I mean, and I love Ahsoka. Like, I know clearly now she's like, I think like the fan favorite for current viewers. Like, I feel like Ahsoka's become super popular. She's the best. I love her. I'm so excited for the series that's upcoming. But the dilemma, like, she has her own core dilemma, right? And like, what I love about that scene is that there's that moment where she ponders and she's like, like, she thinks, right? She thinks about like joining him because she's like, he's not wrong. Like, he's, like there are things about what he's going about it the wrong way. And I feel like that's Maul to a T. Is like he was ingrained in this way of thinking, and he goes about it the wrong way, and he gets punished for it time and time again. But he always perseveres. So yeah, but no, it just gets deeper and deeper. And to me, like, as I'm a huge D&D nerd, and like I'm a huge story guy, audiobooks and all that stuff, like reading and everything, like to me, it's the story of a character and all of the changes they go through, the growth, the demise, the rebound, like all of that. And to me, I think he just kind of like really epitomizes that, at least core to me. There's obviously tons of other characters that can do that, but yeah.
Maul is he's so dynamic. And I think that's the core of what Star Wars is the morality scale. Because how many, even in Legends canon, how many Jedi go off like they're not doing this the right way? They're not going about this the right way. I can find a better way.
Count Dooku. He literally called it out and tried to say it, but he went about it the wrong way. Like that all could have been thwarted like a different way, but he went about it the wrong way and failed. Right? Like
Ahsoka's the one who does it right.
Mm-hmm.
She's the one that actually goes out and like achieves the goal. And then we see Legends Jedi, like I'm sure you played KOTOR, like Jolie Bindo is the one I always go to. Like he's also another one that did it right. Yeah. Like they wouldn't let me fall in love. They wouldn't let me have a family. They wouldn't let me do all the stuff that, we're supposed to do as beings.
Mm-hmm.
And, I didn't agree with it. So I left, but I still practice. It's just Maul exemplifies that. Like you said, he goes about it the wrong way, but he has the right ideals. And when that's really revealed is Rebels, his conversation with Obi-Wan.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. No, 100%.
I love, oh my God, Tim hates when I talk about this because I talk about it ad nauseum. But when he says to like, what are you protecting? Something or someone? I always get chills. I'm like, ah! But then when he dies, he says the right thing. He says, like, is he the chosen one? So Maul, at his core, I don't think he's a bad guy. I think he's actually just misguided. And think about his upbringing.
Yeah,
Dathomir's not exactly the best place for someone.
You see that time and time again. Like it's not a great, you know what I mean? Like there's, and there's a lot more deeper conversations. God, I hate that we're like wrapping up because like there's so much more that we could talk about. But yeah, no, and I think also like just quickly, you talked about like relationships, right? Like, and I won't talk about certain things, but like Revan, right? I read the book of Revan, right? Old Republic, and it was talking about the time after like the Jedi, he came back and like the Jedi kind of wiped his slate clean. And I don't know if you've read that book, if either of you've read the Revan book. Yep. Yeah. But it's the same thing with like when we kind of talked a little bit about, or you're going to talk about Mitra, right? And like canon and all that stuff. I recognize the name and I was like, where do I know that name? Because I'm not a comic guy. I've never read any of the comics. I'm not a big comic guy in general, but like I'm like, oh, so I should probably get into it. But it was like he has the relationship, like, and it's like, but he's not the Jedi Order. It's kind of like that, like Gray or Outcast or whatever. But that's like the constant struggle again, where it comes down to human nature, where it's like, I'm made to have a partner. I want to have this individual that I love, right? But it's like, there's all of the like, oh, it can lead to emotion and fear and all this other stuff, right? Look at Anakin, right? Example. But I just think that is one of the biggest like and greatest like stories I can tell, because I think it plays so much to like the human emotion, the human nature of like, this is how we're wired, right? This is what we connect to. And you have to stay away from that. You can't have that as much as you want it. You can't have that because you're part of this order and you're held to the highest of standard. And I think that there's so much that's still going to come, yeah. So anyway, I'm rambling, but yeah.
What you said is the ultimate demise of the Jedi, because if Anakin was allowed to do the things, the Order would not have been destroyed, because Palpatine needed Anakin to destroy the Jedi. It's like,
and he used it. Yeah.
And even in SWTOR, I don't know if you ever played that, but Malgus, who's the antagonist, they basically created him in the beginning as he was with the Empire, and then along the way he leaves the Empire because he thinks their ideals are corrupted too. He's like, you're just the Jedi in a different form. That's all you are. And the Empire is the Republic. You're all part of the same thing, just doing it a different way. And I don't adhere to that. So even though he's the villain throughout the entire series, then he kill him and he comes back all the time. Everything he says, you sit there, you're like, God damn it, he's right.
Yeah, exactly. There's so many.
Even in the latest, The latest expansion, they basically have these two Twi'lek twins. One of them is really force sensitive, the other one's only mildly, and the one is the one that gets taken by the Jedi Order, and they leave the other one, and the other one ends up becoming like a space pirate and is just angry about the fact that they were separated. And then Malgus encounters the sister, who was the one that was taken by the Jedi Order, and he has this amazing speech where he basically says, like, you know, it doesn't matter who found you, doesn't matter why. The only reason you're here is because they want you to be to act on their purposes. That's it. You are meaningless to them at the end of the day. The Jedi and the Sith, they're all the same. And it's crazy to me that they use a dark side force user to do this, because usually it's like the balanced person. No, like Malgus is full of hatred, rage, all the other fun stuff, but he's always saying the right shit. And you're just like, God damn it, he's right again. This is like, but you're on the other side because you're fighting for whatever faction you joined to fight for. But I'm always like, man, he's just. It always goes back to Dark Knight Joker.
Yeah, it's the Joker in the hospital.
And you're just like, oh, everything he's saying is true. Like, you know, the whole thing with the, like, if I kill a mayor, everyone freaks out. But if a soldier dies in a convoy, nobody cares. And it's like, oh, he's right. So, but those are the best villains. And that's why Maul is, even though wherever you classify him on the scale, he's great, because everything what he says is true and is right. And especially that conversation with Ahsoka and the one with Obi-Wan, they're just on par. And it's oh man, what a great character. Before we run out of here, the two bits of news we wanted to cover: that crazy Wes Anderson Star Wars AI trailer.
I haven't seen it.
It's in I put it in the show notes. You can watch it, but
I will watch it.
I would watch that movie.
Yeah.
I want
to Owen Wilson Darth Vader so bad. I just want to be force choked and then drop to the ground and just wow. Like just like
it's called the Galactic Menagerie. Yeah, but people really want it made. They're like, yeah, I'd watch this. I watch the hell out of it. And I'm almost like, man, if Disney is leaning into the multiverse, like, and you know, Legends is technically a multiverse, like, why not make a Wes Anderson?
Yeah.
Who cares?
And people would watch the mess out of it. Like, they would watch that. Like, and I would watch that because it's like, yeah, why not? And you got to watch it, Tim. You got to watch it.
Yeah, I've got
it. It's so interesting. Like, Scarlett Johansson is Leia. Who was Luke? I forget who Luke was. It was just so ridiculous.
God, the Ewoks look terrifying.
Yeah.
It's so
good, though.
It's
silly. So different, but silly. But like, you could kind of see it as like you said, like an alternate universe where it's like it's the same but different, you know, and it's like different in a wild way.
Yeah, it's one of the most ridiculous things, but you just sit there the whole time and you're like, man, that works, and I hate that it works.
Scarlett Johansson is Leia.
I'm telling you, dude, it's
Bill Murray's Obi-Wan. Jeff Goldblum as the Emperor. Oh my God, William Dafoe
R2-D2 has like hands and feet.
No, he's Moff Tarkin.
She would be a great. I'm a fan of that.
Owen
like,
Wilson
absolutely.
as Darth Vader. That's amazing, dude. Edward Norton as Han Solo.
Could you imagine Jeff Goldblum as Emperor Palpatine?
Yes, it would be so good.
Oh, it'd be amazing. Again, same but different. I'd love that like offshoot. Like I'm a fan. I'm like, let's do it.
Anakin, have you heard the tale of Darth Plagueis the Wise? Have you?
The Force finds a way.
Really come here. I'll show you.
So good. I love it. That's so funny. Yeah, I would watch that. 100%.
Stupid, it works.
Yeah, and especially cutting that Wes Anderson, like it's good.
It's just man,
solid.
No. Now I need to watch Life Aquatic. Last bit of news. So one of the new High Republic comics came out, and it's I think it's Sarek, whichever of the twins didn't die, and Skier.
Oh yeah.
Skier. Hunter and I just watched the end of season 3, which is the Transocean Hunting Grounds episodes.
Oh yeah.
With Ahsoka and the Wookiees.
Yeah,
and he's like, Dad, has there ever been a Trandoshan Jedi? And I was like, ha ha ha, funny you mentioned that. We should read some High Republic comics. Skier. But they find this blade, and the blade is called Surek's blade, like Adam mentioned earlier. Mitra Surik is the canon version of the the Legends canon. God, it's so complicated. Version of your character in KOTOR 2. So you are the wound in the Force. That's Mitra Surik's the canon version.
Yeah.
So now the of course the fandom on Reddit and whatnot's like, oh boy, here we go, Mitra's canon 2 now. And again, it goes back to what we said earlier. Like, it's great that, okay, cool. I'm happy that they're making Mitra canon, but it's probably not going to be the character that you know
right
from
exactly
the game. And you have to be okay with them changing it to meet the demands of this new story that they're telling in universe. So while it's great and I'm very happy, it's awesome, and I'm excited to see a character like Mitra and Revan and Malik and all them be canon, their stories are going to change. And people have to be okay with that if they want, like, Mara Jade. Obviously, you now know the story of Mara Jade, Tim. She doesn't fit into the story. But can she still be an Imperial Assassin? Yes.
Oh, sure.
Can she still go after Luke? Yes. Like, all of the things that made her who she is can still be it, but they're going to change how they get to that. And yes, there's plenty of room for Luke to be married in between when we leave him in Mandalorian or Book of Boba Fett and up to where we see him again. There is
a stretch.
How do we know he's not married when he
I know, but like, I know that's the whole thing, is like they really have to develop the old Luke Skywalker, like the Skywalker that we don't get to see between Mandalorian or the Book of Boba Fett and wherever we meet up with him again in episode 8. Like, there's a lot of time. There's like 20 years, 15 years of of Luke that we have to cover to where we get to the point of like Ben Kenobi or Ben Solo just completely destroying the Jedi Temple and becoming Kylo Ren. So like, there's still a lot that's there. So like, I mean, can she fit in? Can Luke be married? Can like this whole story develop and happen? Most definitely. How are they going to go about telling it though? Are they going to tell it in a book? Are they going to tell it in a comic book? Are they actually going to make a show about it? I don't know. And it's going to be but it can fit. It's how are they going to make it fit? And it's like that. Like they did. I think they did it really well with Shadow of the Sith. And they're starting to bring some of the Legends characters in as like nods of like, these are stories of old. You know, I really liked that because it's a really good way of
that one Sith from Shadows of the Sith. That one was new. Pan something.
Yeah, but they also talked about some other relics and things.
No, they did
mention. Yeah,
but that one Sith, that dude was freaking the one who just like killed people for fun.
Yeah, the guy who's the mask, the guy who possessed the mask, right?
Exactly.
Yeah,
I can't remember their name, but that, like, again, goes back to what we said at the beginning. We want more stories like that. We want that dark ass shit.
Yeah.
Because the more you make the villains evil, the more the heroes can shine. Like, you need the dichotomy for it to work.
One would
Lord
say.
of the Rings is the prime example. Like, this itty bitty little crappy little inanimate object is possessed by all of the evil in the entire world, and you pick the most pure human or not humans, pure beings to carry the load and destroy it. That's what makes it a good story. It's because the two most unlikely people are the heroes against all of the evil wrapped in this little tiny thing. So as long as Star Wars can tell stories like that, which they have the playbook, they just need to execute on it. And now, one thing about Mandalorian, Tim, that I noticed, remember how we were talking about how the outro was at the end where it's like the circle?
Yeah.
So the only time they use that cinematography is when they're ending a story.
Right.
So I found it interesting that's like, okay, like the first 3 seasons of Mandalorian, like the chapter is closed now.
The way that they finish that off, it is the perfect bow they tied on that story. They closed.
Why we didn't get after credits?
Exactly. It is done. Like, that is done. Grogu's story and Din's story and all of that. The Mandalorian has come to an end as far as I'm concerned when it comes to this storytelling. The Mandalorians have retaken Mandalore. He completed his mission of go and find his parents. He did. He became his father. Like, right. There's nothing else left to tell right now. So that's why the way that they closed it off and everyone's like, boo, no, that's the perfect way to finish it off, because you'd have to come to an end somehow. And how else do you do it? By you kill Moff Gideon on the one planet he killed off himself.
Unless
kill him there.
It was a clone.
Yeah, who could have been a clone because of the mustache. Who fucking
mustache? Exactly.
Right? I mean, but that's the whole thing. But but the way that they kind of ended it is that they allow you to theory craft like we like to do, but at the same time, that it's done. You know, like you can live peacefully knowing that Mando and Grogu's story has come to an end, as far as I'm concerned, when it comes to the Mandalorian.
I wouldn't hate it if they came out and they were like, "That's the end of the Mandalorian." You know, Din and Grogu's adventures will continue in Rangers of the New Republic, or
Yeah, sure.
you know,
Yeah,
the show's now called The Mandalorians, and it's going to focus on Bo-Katan. Like, I'm fine with either of those scenarios.
There's more opportunities, right, for stories. Like that was Tim's. I feel like that's a very good closure point to that. And then from here, you can take that and create so much more with it, right? Because there's so much more that you can do.
You can use more of Captain Teva if you do Rangers of the New Republic, you know, based on the little arrangement they made at the end there. And I love him as a character. He's fantastic. So, you know, that after Ahsoka, you could probably loop Hera back into that. She would be perfect for that scenario. So it opens doors for collaboration, which is, at the end of the day, it's what we want. We want the characters we love to like work together more. But I did read that after we recorded that type of cinematography, they use it in Star Wars only when they're like closing a chapter of a story. Like, thanks for watching, have a good day. That's the end of that story.
Yeah, it's like Looney Tunes style.
Yeah,
exactly. But I mean, like, they left a lot of things. They destroyed the Darksaber. You know, so I mean, like what happens with that? The mythosaurs at the bottom of the water. Like, we know that Grogu is, you know, there's still more to his story of this idea of like this force wielder that's a Mandalorian. Like, we know that his story is not done. Like, the kid sells more merch than anyone else in the Star Wars fandom. So
he does.
You know, so I mean, like, there's a lot still there, but I think like Din's story is when he gave his sword to Bo and he pledged himself to Bo, like that right there was the end of Din Djarin's story, because it was no longer about him. It was no longer about him as the Mandalorian. It was him being a Mandalorian serving the Mandalorian. Like, she is, like, Bo-Katan in my eyes is Mandalore. She is the Mandalorian now. Like, the story should, if they were going to continue, it should revolve around her and what she does with Mandalore, and how, like, what happens when we get to like the world of Episode 9 when the First Order, like, where are the Mandalorians? Like, why didn't they come fight? So there's still a lot there, and I'd like to see where they can take this story of the Mandalorian people, because they're still like one of the most beloved like races in Star Wars fandom. Like, if you go to Star Wars Celebration, I guarantee you there are more people cosplaying as Mandalorians than anyone else. Before the Mandalorian show came out, people just love the race. They love the Mandalorian people because there's so much freedom, and it allows them to express themselves in a very unique way. And so I think that's why people are just so drawn to them. But there you go. There it is.
That's it. Adam, where can people find you on the interwebs?
Yeah, I mean, mostly at Arcane Adam or Arcane Adam TV on Twitter, Arcane Adam on Twitch. I think Arcane Adam on Instagram, but you know, whatever. But yeah, you can find me there. Mostly do streams occasionally for GTRP, D&D. I do a lot with Robert, which I know is a friend of you guys as well. You guys know Rob very well, so I do a lot of D&D. But yeah, it's been an absolute blast to sit down with some friends and talk Star Wars for a bit and nerd out a little bit. And, you know, hopefully I'd love to come back at some point and continue some conversations, because we covered some good stuff.
We need a whole episode of just you, me, Tim, and Darth Maul. That's what I'm gathering.
Dude,
let's do it, baby.
Darth Maul all day. I love
Let's do it. Let's do it.
And Robert is twitch.tv/Captain Robert, if you're wondering. And that's a 24/7 channel. So chances are, if you went there right now, you might see Adam.
We'll be live in like 4 hours, so we're got D&D tonight.
Holy crap! Wow, 4 hours.
Yeah, it's like
party animal.
It's like 3 hours. Yeah, but you know, it's you gotta do it. We got some West Coast folks, so you gotta do what you gotta do, I guess.
Well, you can find Tim fe.gg/darkness429. Even though his Survivor adventure is over, what's next, Tim?
Oh God, we're gonna try out Redfall tomorrow, so we'll see how that goes.
Good luck.
Yep.
Actually, it's facebook.com/darkness429 now, right? That's the
fb.gg/darkness429.
Still works? Okay. Facebook.com/darkness429 and darkness429 everywhere. And me, I'm Kevin X Vision on Twitter, KMagic101 on Instagram, and everything I do is at raredrop.co, including this show. So if you like it, go back and be one of those people that listens to old episodes, like that comes in Tim's chat. Like, I just listened to all 129 episodes.
Dude, we were talking about it today, and there was a bunch of people who were like, "Oh, I'm already caught up. I already listened to all that." Like, how have you listened to like over 120 episodes of us just talking about Star Wars?
That they want to go back and hear like old takes, but I guess it makes sense. Like, what were we wrong about? What were we right about? Hey, whatever, man. If you enjoy that, by all means. But if you really do enjoy it, rate, review, subscribe. That helps us. So no matter where you consume the content, like, subscribe, whatever platform you're on, because we're video, audio, all over the place. But just that's the best way to support the content. So
indeed.
Until we see you next week, Tim and I will be talking about Star Wars Visions, which comes out this week. So we'll have a full episode.
Show. I'm watching that with Kyler right now. So
Young Jedi Adventures.
It's pretty cute.
Love it. It's just the shorts right now. The full
episode. 5 minutes. It's 5 minute shorts.
But yeah, by the time you hear this, you'll be a few hours away from May the 4th. So I would like to be the first one to say, through Tim, who's about to say it,
May the 4th be with you.
Always.